What's up everyone, how's it going? So I know I haven't been uploading a lot in the past week, and that is actually because I just got a new apartment, so I was busy moving everything in and getting the bills paid for all that. So hopefully now that we have everything moved in, I actually moved in with my brother, I'll be able to start getting more videos up more frequently now. But in today's video is actually going to be another concept for another reinforcement class. Now if you remember, I think 2 weeks ago I actually made a basic Jedi concept and how it can work and stuff. I made a whole video on that, so if you have not seen it yet, be sure and check it out if you would like. But today's video, as you can see from the title, is actually going to be about the melee class reinforcement. So I personally have seen a few people talk about this within the community, and we all kind of shared the same idea, so I decided to make a whole video on it in case maybe a DICE developer sees it or something and they can pass it on, because I think this class would not only work for all three eras, but this would also just be a really unique way to add a new reinforcement, because as we know, most of the reinforcements now just have a simple gun. You know, my favorite reinforcement personally is the Commando, because it is so different, both the Republic Commando as well as the Droid Commando. So those guys are my favorites, so I think having this melee class would add a lot of variety to the game and just have a little bit more of a unique set of characters to use. So in this video, I wanted to talk about what characters we could actually see for this class if this is something that DICE decides to implement, which I really hope happens. So the first era is actually going to be for the prequel trilogy era, and for the Republic side of things, I think having the Jedi Temple Guard would be an awesome addition to this game. These are some of the coolest looking guys. They even hold a kind of yellowish lightsaber, which is something that you don't see too often within the canon Star Wars universe. So I think having that alone adds a lot of uniqueness and variety to it, and it just makes them stand out a little bit more. They have these awesome looking helmets. And obviously these guys did guard the temple over on Coruscant, so I know some people are going to be saying that it kind of takes away from the continuity of having them on like Geonosis or something. Personally, I don't really care about that. I think that would be completely fine to do, especially because with all the clone legions we have, they're not map specific, which I'm still fine with, so I don't think it'd be a huge deal to allow these guys to be played on any map. But we also have Wookiees playing on maps like Kamino and Naboo, which I don't think they fit there, but at the same time, this is a game at the end of the day, and it's all about fun. Personally, I do not like Wookiees. I get killed by them all the time, but that's just me. So now that we have the Republic side of things, let's look at the Separatists. There's a really obvious choice that I'm sure you guys probably already thinking of, and that is actually the Magna Guard, first featured in Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. So ever since I first saw these guys back in 2005, they immediately became one of my favorite characters as they just look super cool. They also, of course, are the bodyguards of General Grievous, and if you know, he is one of my favorite characters in Star Wars. Despite not having too much story, I just think he looks awesome, and he has 4 arms, so having the bodyguards along with him would be an awesome addition. And if you do remember in Revenge of the Sith, when they were fighting him, Obi-Wan actually cut his head off, but the Magna Guard was still able to keep fighting. I think this would be an awesome feature to add. So maybe like if these guys have 200 or 300 health, say they have 300, but then you get cut down to 150, then your head just pops off out of nowhere. I think that'd be hilarious looking, but also kind of add to the immersion as well. Maybe this would only happen whenever you're facing a lightsaber user and you get hit with the lightsaber. I think that would add a really cool detail to it and be kind of funny, honestly. But not only do these guys look really cool, they also have this awesome looking weapon, and this weapon is actually called the Electro Staff. So basically it's just this big pole, but at the end of each side there are this little lightning things coming out of it. I don't know what the exact things are, but they look really cool. And as we can see, if we go back to the Jedi Temple Guard, they also wield a double-bladed weapon, so it's a perfect matchup in my opinion. I think it's going to be a missed opportunity if DICE doesn't decide to do something with these two characters, because like I said, they just match each other perfectly in terms of balancing, and I just think they would look really cool to be added to the Battlefront. So yeah, that is the 2 melee class reinforcements for the prequel trilogy that I have decided on. Personally, I think my favorite is going to have to be the Magna Guard. I really like the Jedi Temple ones, but the Magna Guards are just so iconic to me at least, and despite the Temple Guards having yellow lightsaber, that Electro Staff just looks so cool, and I hope DICE decides to add them at some point. Okay, so now that we got that out of the way, let's go on to the original trilogy, and this is where things get kind of complicated along with the sequel trilogy, because there's a really obvious choice for the enemies to have, but the choice for having the rebel side or resistance side of things is a little bit more difficult to figure out on. But for the Empire on these, I think we could easily have Emperor Palpatine's guards, and these guys are actually called the Royal Guards, and these were first featured in Episode 6, Return of the Jedi, and they look really awesome. They have this really cool looking sleek red to them, but they also wield a staff, as we can see in this image here, and this of course just goes along the lines of everything else with the melee class. And what's actually funny about this is these guys were actually featured in Battlefront 2015. I can't remember if they were there at the start of the game or if they came in one of the 4, I think, DLCs. I'm not really too sure on that. But what's funny about this is actually in Battlefront 2015, they actually wielded a blaster instead of their staff. I'm sure the reason for that is because it would just take way too much time to actually animate the staff for them, because there was only 2 lightsaber heroes in that game, so they didn't really have all the technology to create those animations, I don't think. But yeah, I think having them featured in Battlefront 2015 actually makes it a little bit easier to import. Now, the developers have stated that it is not as easy to import things from their previous games into Battlefront 2 as easy as a lot of people think it is. I believe they were talking about importing maps at the time, but I'm pretty sure the same process goes for importing new models and characters and stuff like that. But the question is, what would actually be their counter for this? The only thing I could think of for the Rebel side would actually be the Honor Guard. Now, if you have been playing this game, or at least following the game, since the beginning of the launch, whenever the Frosty tools actually were available to mod the game, people actually found the Honor Guard in the files, and they looked really cool. They have this weird shield over their head. I'm not sure what that does, but you could actually mod them in and give them a little pistol and stuff for them to use. It looks really cool. But what I was thinking is actually they can give them the bow rifle staff from the Battlefront 2015 game. As we all know, people have been begging for new weapons, and while they are giving them to like reinforcements and stuff, they could continue this idea with the Honor Guard where they import that old weapon from 2015 into this game. Now, I know it's not a staff, but it is a gun that does have a staff on it, so I think it could be the closest thing we could have to a counter for the Royal Guard, because honestly I just cannot think of anything else for the Rebels. As we know in the movies, they just didn't have that much money and technology to get all these cool looking things, so they had to just deal with what they had. But honestly, I think bringing the bow rifle back would be a really cool thing, as personally it was probably my favorite gun to use in the game, just because it had that 2 abilities on it. It had the staff as well as just the normal gun itself, which I really loved. But yeah, just like the Royal Guard, they actually already have the character meshes for them. So for the Royal Guard, they would just have to import it. But as the Honor Guard, the Rebel side, they actually already have them in the game. I believe they're still in the files, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know, they could have taken them out, but we do know that they do have them. So that, of course, does make it a little bit easier to implement to the game. Or perhaps DICE can actually just create a whole new canon character for the Rebel side that Disney approves on. I think that'd be cool as well. But personally, I think our best bet for this would be to get the Honor Guard back. Okay, so that is the original trilogy side of things. Now on to the sequel trilogy. I'm sure just like the prequel trilogy, this is going to be a really obvious one. As we have all seen The Last Jedi, we do know that in that awesome throne room scene, we do get revealed of the Praetorian Guards. I have no idea if I actually said that word right, but you all know what I'm talking about. But as we can see, they are obviously inspired a lot by Emperor Palpatine's Royal Guards that we just talked about. They're all red. They have this kind of sleek looking design. You know, not as sleek as the Royal Guards, but they do look a lot like them. They look like an updated version of them. So yeah, we were first introduced to them in the throne room fight, which personally, it is one of my favorite battles in all of Star Wars, at least with lightsabers. Now I know there's some continuity errors in them, but hey, we get those with the Phantom Menace duels as well as Attack of the Clones and all the other Star Wars movies. I guess it's just something that is going to happen. You just gotta deal with, I guess, because I'd never even noticed the errors until these people were pointing them out, so I don't think it's a huge deal. But that is actually beside the point of the video. The point of the video is to talk about the melee class. So let's get back onto these guards. As we can see, they have many different variant and types of weapons that they use. So the weapon that DICE could use, I have no idea. I'm thinking DICE could actually implement multiple versions of these guys, kind of almost how a skin works, except you can't buy it. You just choose which one. I know this one dude has a really big staff, another dude has two dual wielding kind of little blades. So there's a lot of different types of them. And we can actually see in this shot right here that their arm plates actually do block lightsabers. I don't know what they're made out of, but I think this could be a really cool blocking feature or something whenever you get hit with a lightsaber. If you hit the block button, they just kind of hold their fists up the way they do in this shot right here, and they block the lightsaber. I don't know if that's something they could do, but I do think it'd be a cool addition to this character. But that is it for the First Order side of things. Now for the Resistance, honestly, I'm thinking they're gonna have to do the same thing with the Rebels and actually add in the Honor Guard, just in a different kind of version. Now they have actually been doing this throughout most of the Battlefront 2 game, where the Rebels and Resistance are pretty much the same in terms of the class, the skins, and the weapons are different, but other than that, they're pretty much the same thing, especially in the movies as well. So I don't think it'd be a huge deal to kind of copy and paste over the same ideas with the Honor Guard if they decide to do that, because just like the Rebels, I just don't know what else they could implement. But maybe whenever the Rise of Skywalker actually releases, there is a new type of reinforcement that could be added to it that does include a staff. I do think that's also a possibility, but honestly, I think adding the Rebel side again would just be perfectly fine, and not that many people would be upset about that. But that is actually pretty much going to do it for today's video. This is the concept art for the melee class. Again, a lot of people have been speculating about it in the community and stuff, so I think it'd just be a great addition. So as always, go ahead and let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section, what you guys think about this. Do you want them to add this, or would you rather them focus on something else instead? Go ahead and let me know in the comments below. But I do hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, be sure and leave a like on the video. It really helps out the channel a lot. And if you're new, subscribe for more Star Wars news, gameplay, and more. And I'll hopefully see you in the next one.